ChrisTropicalJPop.com, and today we are playing VEV on the PS4. This is VEV stands for Virtual Eukaryote. I can't say it. Visual. It is on PS4. It's like, I think it's only on PS4, and it's built as it's really built for PSVR, even though it's not really out. I mean, PSVR isn't out yet. The game costs $5 on the PSN store, and it's going to, apparently I'm told, be updated for free to make it comply with PlayStation VR when that thing comes out. So like, there's all sorts of elements here just in terms of how the menu is laid out, how you can look around, read notes and things like that. I'm doing this with the left stick, but it seems to make sense for VR, the way it's the way that stuff's laid out, and the way some things like the HUD appear in game and things like that feel very sort of VR friendly. The game itself, let's jump in here, kind of reminds me very much of something like Flow, just in terms of what you're doing. You're a little microorganism, and space of 5. There's no real aim per se, other than to sort of survive for as long as possible and gather enough energy, gather enough food as you possibly can. So you put yourself into one of these different environments, pure water, muddy water, I think, and then like there's blood and then cerebral spinal fluid, and so once you're in each of these environments, each one has a different kind of ecosystem that lives within it, and different sort of structures. I mean, these structures that we're flying through, that you can see that I'm swimming around in, are procedurally generated, but they all sort of pertain to certain rules, and food tends to gather and other organisms tend to gather within certain rules. So it's like here, most of the food seems to be in these little caves, these little tunnels here, but in another sort of section that I'll show you in a little bit, the food tends to gather in more open water. So I flew into a yellow thing there, you saw it attached to me, and basically the idea is I want to gather as many foodie bits, as many delicious foodie bits as I can, and then hit X to absorb them, and that will give me the most bang for my buck, the most energy that I can possibly get. You see on the left there that very sort of VR-ish HUD heads-up display there. Is showing me the highest energy that I've attained so far, and my total energy, which is constantly ticking down. Right now you can see my consumption rate is half a picojoule per second, so it's going down by half a unit every second. If I accelerate, it's going to go up to 1. If I decelerate, then I can bring it down to a quarter. Absorb it, then I can get 50 picojoules back, and I'm not seeing any food around here, so I'm going to hold down X, absorb that shit, and then I bump it up. So that makes me survive for longer, but there's an overall time limit just on what I'm doing of half an hour. So far, I think A, I'm kind of rubbish at this game, and B, the game is pretty, actually, for a sort of very zen, relaxed. And, wow. Well, hey, we just got, what you heard on the stream there was An earthquake alert on my phone, so that's a nice thing to get. We're live, folks. And there was a minor earthquake there. That scared the crap out of me. Not the earthquake itself, which was just a minor tremble, which I think it's still going on a little bit as I'm playing this, but nothing to worry about. That's the thing. That's what comes from streaming from Japan, guys. But my actual phone alert just absolutely scared the bejesus out of me. But never mind. Let's carry on there. Yeah, this game is actually quite difficult for a very relaxed game. As I said, it reminds me very much of Flow, also of something like Aquanaut's Holiday, in terms of, hey, it's not really about doing much stuff other than swimming around, but it's a metaphor for playing video games in general. I've just died. It's a metaphor, I think, for playing games in general. I've copped it there, so let's go out and show you another section here. In that, just like playing games, I think, on the internet, very ruined by the presence of other people. This game is... Your existence in this game is ruined by the presence of other organisms. And you can see what happened at the end of my last game there is that a thing attached to me and just leached on my energy until I died. And that kind of happens a lot in this game. So in this environment here, we've got this very long fucking snake-like thing, which doesn't do me any damage as far as I can tell. But it will bump into you and send you spiraling out of control, and then it makes it hard for you to gather the things. So all the other organisms are basically trouble. They all exist in the same ecosystem, and they all want the same food that you do. You're competing for the same resources in a very not particularly intensive way. There's not a bunch of AI going on here. But they're constantly in your way, and it actually makes the game quite difficult in that I mean, I said there isn't a goal really, and there kind of isn't, but there's some very light storytelling going on in the environment and in the sort of research notes that are lying around inside the main menu. And there's also extra levels that you can unlock if you get a score of 1,000 on each stage, and it's able to do. Because these fucking things will bump you, and they will bump you all over the place there. So see, there's things that attach to me, and again, it's sapping up my energy, and the only way to get rid of it is to knock it off at the side. You've got no way of fighting, and I'm gonna die again. It's gonna kill me. It's gonna kill me. It's terrible. I did actually survive in the stage for a good like 12 minutes before, but there you go, I'm dead again. And when you die, there's no real indication that you're about to die. There's an awful lot in this game that feels very early. I think just in the face that the interface isn't optimized for TV at all. It's optimized for VR, but it's like you get this weird sort of operation ended thing that doesn't sit properly on the screen or whatever, and just the fact that you die super abruptly, there's no indication that you're about to die. It's just like you're dead. There's some subtle things that it does do with sound and with music that I quite enjoy. So, for instance, it's sort of this sort of very ethereal, laid-back music, but when another organism is close, then things pick up. So there's a little really, and there's not. What's frustrating is that there's not a way of dealing with these threats, which I mean, it's by design. Like, you are the lowest fucking thing on this pecking order, on this food chain. You are the dirt lowest bottom feeder here. But it's frustrating that there isn't something like Flow where you can sort of evolve and consume bigger things other than constantly fighting for table scraps. It's a little bit irritating. Let's see what these big old green balls do. Bump. Nothing. But there is, but we can see, what does this guy do? He's going to attach to me too. He's also going to sap my energy into destruction. Bump. There you go. Bump you off. There's a certain aspect of, especially in this stage, if I tussled with that big old worm who's disappeared, it kind of spins you around an awful lot, and it's very disorienting, even playing on TV. So I wonder, really, even though this game is built as a VR experience, I wonder how effective it is in VR. I can imagine at first it being fairly amazing, but I can imagine also getting fairly sick fairly quickly. And there's sort of other aspects which, you know, I think need a few bits of work. Like the things you're actually trying to collect are very, very small. And let's quickly look at one more bit in the bloody bit. We are going. Okay. And a weird sort of alert that said my broadcast to stop. It seems to be continuing. So in Blood now, you can see these things are attaching me. They're going to eat anything that I try to eat, so I've got to be careful and just, I can't gather enough energy in one go. I've got to consume it at once, and there's a white blood cell that's going to kill me on contact, so there we go. It's just really, it's a little bit too tough for its own good. If I bump into things, you see I'm going to spin round and around if I bump into that shit, so I'm going to consume as soon as I can. It's weird, because I'm not, see, it's tricky. You can kill all your momentum by hitting square, which helps, but see, all of these things are going to consume everything if I don't absorb my food right away, so I can't really get a multiplier. There's too much hostility in this game and not enough in the way of ways to deal with said hostility, and that makes kind of the relaxing gameplay that I think it's trying to promote. It makes that far more difficult than it should be. And dead again. So yeah, it's difficult to really know how to feel about this one. I think certainly the sort of fresh water and the soil sections are a little bit more relaxing, but yeah, none of it's quite as stress-free as I think the game wants to be, and it's a bit, I don't want to say, oh, I can't do it, but it's a bit more hardcore than it perhaps should be for a quote-unquote VR experience, a GP VR experience. As I said, this is only $5 on PSN right now, and it can be updated to comply with PSVR for free. That's going to be patched in when PSVR becomes available. And I'd really suggest probably, you know, this really feels like it was built with VR in mind, and I would suggest probably just getting it on that. But then it also kind of feels like, you know, it could have done with a little bit of tweaking, a little bit of work in the meantime. I'm sure it will be worked on, but it just makes me wonder, why didn't they just release this when PSVR came out, rather than releasing now when it doesn't feel quite complete, and when it's missing a sort of key element of its design. I can't find any food. I was doing quite a bit better when I wasn't recording. And I'm also going to blame the earthquake scare. That ruined it as well. There's some stuff. Okay. Let's get some shit. I'm gonna be attacked. Of course I'm gonna be attacked. You see that? You see that the little beasties, they ate my food, damn it. They ate my lunch. But you see here I'm struggling to try and get onto these things, because of the weight of these other organisms that are pushing me off, but just like the general controls, it's kind of a little bit difficult. I imagine it might be easier actually in VR to judge distances, because you'd be seeing this stuff in 3D, but it's really difficult to sort of ascertain really exactly where you are in space, and then I always find myself just flying past these tiny particles. It would seem like it could be better rebalanced by by having those sort of particles sort of attract to you, be slightly magnetized towards you, would help a little bit. You see, it just seemed to me like I was just about to pick that up, but apparently not. And I'm denied that food as well. I just want to get rid of these things, man. I know this wants to be a sort of peaceful game, so combat is not a factor in design here, but if everything seems so intent on combating you, it would be nice to have some countermeasure other than bumping into stuff, because I mean, after a certain point it just becomes about running away, and that's not that fun. Some more stuff here. Oh, and that big old cell I want to avoid, so it's just gonna kill me, I think. But yeah, I think that's the end of me here. And at least I got a natural death, and I wasn't consumed by that other cell. But yeah, so I don't know. VEV could be interesting as a VR game. There's potential here, I think, for something, but it's not. It doesn't feel quite complete or tweaked or polished enough to really recommend at the moment. But I'll keep plugging away at it, and there'll be a full review on kojipop.com in the near future. Chris Charlton for kojipop.com. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.